Welcome to Black Spring. Today we begin with a few stories. For one, we'll begin with following a story from Fox entitled "Trump Tours the Ford Plant Without Mask Despite Warnings." Well, sounds like a little bit of injection of rhetoric, a little bit of reckless rhetoric injected by Fox. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I'd like to take you to that story, and thank you so much for joining me here.
Car, and they really did a great job on the ventilators, and I hear that the quality of the ventilator has been really top of the line.
Thank you, Mr.
So we really appreciate it, fellas.
Mr. President, there was a lot of interest about whether you would end up wearing a mask today. Could you just take us through your thought process of why you decided not to wear a mask?
I had one on before. I wore one in this back area, but I didn't want to give the press the pleasure of seeing it. But no, where I had it in the back area, I did put a mask on.
Did you have the goggles on too as well, sir?
I did. I had goggles and a mask right there.
So why would you not be
And here's another one.
Why would you not be wearing it for your
Because in this area,
Why would you not be wearing it here, sir?
Not necessary here. Well, everybody's been tested, and I've been tested. In fact, I was tested this morning, so it's not necessary.
But the executive are wearing them.
Well, that's their choice. I was given a choice, and I had one on in an area where they preferred it, so I put it on, and it was very nice. It looked very nice, but they said not necessary here. Yeah, please.
What about the example that it would set for other Americans?
I think it sets an example. I think it sets an example both ways, and as they say, I did have it on. Thank you. Yeah, please.
Mr. President.
I just like your question so much. You know what? It was such a nice question.
No, it was a great question. Here's a question for you. So you have seen
Yeah, make an extra question.
There we go.
Go ahead.
We've seen the manufacturers here, Ford, GM,
Yeah.
FCA, others, small businesses, turning things overnight and making PPE materials. As someone who is the President of the United States, in terms of our manufacturing might, how do you see what's taken place in these last
This is
months?
the biggest mobilization since World War II. And these people were in charge of it. They did it. They did a fantastic job. They did a really fantastic job, and we appreciate it.
Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So, with that, you have, once again, an example of a bit of a policing or surveillance, a police state media tyrannizing the president during a tour that basically highlights the spirit, the indomitable spirit of America making a comeback. So there again, of course, the Mr. and Mrs. mainstream media continue to miss the mark there. However, for the people that are whining and snitching and the culture of snitching that's transforming America, we can tell that you're all concerned. And the president's actually following his own convictions, and if not just his own convictions, but by now he's been, as you can see here, he's been tested, and he's been following some of the CDC advice, even though they flip-flopped on this. With all the flip-flopping, who can blame anyone? So on to that. So you have a little bit more on our next story. He also continues to talk about the preventatives and what's in place and what's practical for coming up. He talks about, this is a paraphrase, that we're not closing the country. If there happens to be something or danger, we'll basically, paraphrasing, we'll put the fire out, but we're not going to shut the country down again. And he also confirms that there will be another stimulus, but he would not disclose the details of the stimulus, and I get the impression that the stimulus will be much more conservative and definitely on a diet of less morbid proportions for those that are so concerned. So, on to another section. Now, with all the things that are going on, there just seems to be, we have this piling on of commencement speeches happening right now. We've heard from Barack Obama. We've heard from Joe Biden. Seems like they are actually sharing the same speech writers, just a little bit, maybe not too much, just a little bit. So we'll go on, and I'll share with you this next clip. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn.
2020, and to all the educators, parents, friends, and mentors who helped you reach this milestone. The coronavirus has given you a graduation you will never forget, and it's released you into an uncertain future. I urge you to embrace the challenge. The world needs you. Your country needs you. Even before the outbreak, you knew you were entering a world of growing inequalities and divisive tribalism, with people pulling away from those who are different from them. Seething resentments and a broken information system have empowered those who, for profit and power for themselves, are willing to inflame our worst instincts. It's put your future, our democracy, and our very planet at risk. In ways large and small, congratulations.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining me again on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Now this seems to be, as I reiterate, this seems to be a bit of a fourth co-signing or a fourth bit of a thesis or a preamble to what some refer to as New World Order. I mean, the term is, it can't all be conspiracy theory when at least all four of these heads of state or previous presidents, former presidents, have mentioned New World Order. They've all mentioned New World Order previously. So I find it very interesting that we've heard from Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and George W. Bush. So it's pretty interesting that we've heard from all of these. What I can say, are they co-founders? It's an alliance of those who are pledging an allegiance to something or ushering in something new. According to Clinton's word, this is a graduation that they'll never forget. Well, it's certainly a transition that the entire country will never forget, that the entire world will never forget. Mind you, he mentions the world needs you. Your country needs you. So as you can see, the paradigm here is very similar, that the world, in all of these speeches, and most of these speeches, that the world itself has been placed above the nationality, the country. The world, then your country needs you. Just thought that was an interesting point. And not to forget, he throws in a couple of jabs, democracy, planets at risk, all of these talking points for the 2020 election. Some of these main issues, all the threats, the real threats to the next decade, the next 4 years. He's injected fear, and of course, the sky's falling. So, with that, I'd like to take you on to our feature and our final story. And that particular story will come from a KPBS story that features a bit of an emancipation of a city, sanctuary city, that defies stay-at-home orders. And it comes from the San Francisco CBS Local. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn, and I would love to bring this story to you.
Salons.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, and thank you all.
Met with a strong showing of support, City Council declared Atwater a sanctuary city, but it has nothing to do with immigration law.
Then it's America. You have the choice. It's time for the government to stop dictating another month, another 3 months, 6 months. When's it going to end? When everybody's bankrupt?
With today's decision, Atwater says that businesses within its city limits have the right to open, but that doesn't mean everyone will exercise that right. A significant complication, the protections are only at the city level. Businesses regulated by the state, including bars, nail, and hair salons, could lose their licenses for opening, so many may choose to wait it out.
We're not taking a position to jeopardize anybody's business. That's a license you hold with the state of California and yourself. So we don't want to cause any harm there, but use your best judgment.
Mayor Paul Creighton says the move comes in response to mounting frustration surrounding COVID-19.
We sent the governor a letter, we sent the board of supervisors a letter, and it fell on deaf ears. So we're tired of listening to the rhetoric from California and the county.
Of the almost 200 cases in Merced County, less than 20 are from Atwater. Declaring Atwater a sanctuary city doesn't just limit protections for local businesses. Local nonprofits, like churches, are now able to open their doors. Victory Baptist Church pastor Richard Miller says outdoor services will take place this Sunday. He moved his services online at the onset of coronavirus.
It's actually helped us in some ways to become more educated on how we can keep things clean, how we can reach people who won't come to the church.
That education brings modifications like reserved seating, taking someone's temperature upon arrival, and face masks if needed.
I look at it similar to when you get into the vehicle, you put on your seatbelt. It doesn't mean you think you're going to get in an accident, but you're just taking that precaution.
The city says no enforcement will take place at the local level. It'll be up to business owners to use best practices to keep the community safe.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining me again on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I want to give you a final thought, a little bit of a summary on that particular story. Well, of course, this also comes from the KPBS, that according to KPBS, that the Merced County's Sheriff Warink is among several in California who have said publicly that they won't enforce the violations of pandemic orders. Quote, the citizens themselves can make informed decisions on how to proceed and protect their lives and livelihood, end quote, Warren said last weekend in a letter to Newsom's office. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring. And as always, if you'll let me know your concerns and your comments, if you could hit the like button, the share button, or the subscribe button to continue to receive updates and notifications. And once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Have a great rest of your day.